Welcome to the Storycraft Society. In this week's episode, we're going to be revealing the exciting conclusion to the Durgtik's Dues adventure, so let's dive into this story. Welcome to the channel, everybody. My name is Garmin, and today we're talking about the conclusion to the Durgtik's Dues adventure that we released last month. If you haven't had a chance to check that video out, it'll be linked in the description below. If this adventure synopsis makes it sound like something that you'd like to run or something that your group would enjoy, you actually can pick this module up on DriveThruRPG. You can just search the Storycraft Society or Durgtik's Dues, but I will put a link to that below. So I actually designed this module's terrain based off of the Cragmaw Hideout set that we've been working on the channel over the last few weeks. So if you'd like to have terrain to run this module, just go craft the Cragmaw Hideout set and you'll have everything that you need. All those videos will be linked in the description below. But that's enough preamble. Let's dive into talking about Durgtik's Dues Part 2. Okay, so a little bit of background just to get us back into where we should be at the start of this. What we know is that Durgtik the Bugbear gathered up a group of goblins. He's been pillaging the trade road. He's also been hearing voices in his head from a smoky voice that is telling him basically all the things that he needs to do to grow his influence and become a better bandit in the area. Recently, the voice told him he should kidnap a child, and that's exactly what he did. He found a caravan along the trade road. He kidnapped the huntmaster's son. His name is Jacob Dillifo, and then he absconded with the child off in the woods to a big hill in which the smoky, misty voice told him to drop the boy down into the sinkhole at the top of that hill at midnight. This is where our heroes came in. They found the caravan. The caravan leader said, "Please go save the boy." So off the heroes went through the woods, eventually finding the hillside, tracking Durgtik and his bandits down. They fought off the goblins, fought off Durgtik, and at the last minute, some crazy smoke started pouring out of Durgtik as he grabbed the boy and dove into the hole, and now the heroes have to chase him down. So part one of this adventure starts with the heroes knowing that they need to follow Durgtik down into the sinkhole to save the boy. So what's really important is your PCs may be banged up here, but if they are looking to take some kind of a rest, make sure that they only take a short rest. They don't have the full time for an 8-hour long rest here. A couple of ways that you can actually make sure that the players know that they need to keep the pace up, I've actually listed in the module here. So things like Jacob can cry out in pain if your PCs succeed on a perception check. The big bad guy can attempt to make a mental link with one of your players, most likely the one with the lowest intelligence score, and offer them riches and things if they just leave or don't try to stop everything. Another thing that you could do is have a puff of smoke come up out of the sinkhole, much like the smoke that came off of Durgtik in the last part of the adventure. And as that happens, a bunch of rodents come scurrying up out of the sinkhole running away, and a druid or someone proficient in nature could know that this is something unnatural is happening to cause all of these just normal rodents to come scurrying out fleeing for their lives. But no matter how they decide to do it, eventually your players are going to have to dive into the sinkhole. So once they're ready, it's going to require an acrobatics or athletics check for them to dive the 15 feet down to get into the first cave. That'll lead us into part 2. So part 2 is all about the players exploring the cave system below the sinkhole. So that's going to start in room 2. Now, as they drop down into room 2, they're gonna notice a couple of things. They're gonna notice that all across the ground is a low-hanging mist. They're going to notice that off in the corner of that room, there is a pool that is currently glowing some kind of radiant energy that seems to be fighting back against the mist. And lastly, they're gonna notice the cave steps down and then heads off across what looks like a rickety bridge into another room over kind of a chasm. So as the first player jumps down from the upper level into the lower level, that is gonna be initiative as 2 giant rats come running across the bridge. When that happens, we don't need this to be a combat sequence. We need it to be in initiative order because that ramps the tension up, and and our players might not know what's going on, and because initiative is rolled, they think that a combat is getting ready to happen. But any character that succeeds on a DC 10 animal handling or nature check is going to know that these rats are not hostile, they're just running out much like the group of rodents did before, and that they're just trying to get their way out of this cave system. So as long as no players stand in their way, those giant rats will just run right on past and out of the sinkhole. That moves us on to the next thing that assuredly your players are going to want to check out, and that's this radiant pool of water fighting back against the mist in the corner of the room. That is going to be the first of 4 teleportation pools that your players are going to encounter while down in the sinkholes here. Once you submerge anything more than just your wrist into those pools, you are going to be teleported to another pool in the complex randomly. So the player actually has to roll which pool they end up in. They could theoretically drop in one and pop back out of that very same one, but they could pop down into the first one and then pop out of the farthest one deepest in the cave system. So that can be really interesting. I do have a bunch of DM notes in the module that you can check out that can kind of make this a little bit more tense and exciting for your players. So I definitely recommend that you check that out. But as your players finish investigating the teleportation pools, they'll be ready to move on to Area 3. So Area 3, they're going to have to cross a rickety bridge covered in moss. It looks like the wood has kind of gotten to the point that it's maybe even wood rotten, and the players are going to be nervous crossing over it because there's a chasm that spans underneath of that bridge. Let the players be cautious about this, and you can't really describe how rickety the bridge is enough because you want the players to be scared as they're trying to cross it. But as soon as they finally decide to make a step onto it, they'll realize that despite all of its rickety appearance, it is very stable. This is important because we want to make it clear, we want to send a message to our players that something more is going on here than just a sinkhole complex. So as the players make their way across the bridge, that's when they enter the healing pool room. So as your players enter Area 3, they're going to be greeted by 2 more teleportation pools, and then the focal piece of this room, which is a large healing pool. They're going to hear a voice call out to them in a celestial, heavenly voice that says that anyone good of heart can drink from this pool and be replenished and be healed. Now your players have a choice. They can choose to trust this heavenly voice, or they could choose to know that something evil is down here and not take it. But they should trust it. One sign that they'll have that they should is that all of the mist has been dispersed from this room, whereas there was tons in the previous room that they were in. None seems to be rolling on the floor here. Also, any character that succeeds on a DC 10 insight check will know that the voice is coming from some kind of heavenly host, and they will then know that they could probably trust the pool and all of the benefits that your players are going to get from drinking from this pool, as long as they are a good aligned character or a neutral character that has not committed an evil deed in 1 week. They will get serious benefits. This could be something like a long rest just instantly from drinking from the pool. They could get all of their spell slots back. They could get a pool of hit points to spend immediately, much like the Lay on Hands ability is for the Paladin. So definitely they're going to want to take a break and drink from this healing pool. But once they've drank from it, they cannot benefit from it for another 7 days. Then that's going to have them moving out of this room and down into the descent, which is going to follow a stream out of this room into a cave system below. So as soon as the players start the descent out of Area 3, they're going to realize that the mist all comes back. Now that the radiant pools, either the teleportation or healing, don't have the power to drive the mist back, it is now rolling all over the ground again, and the players will descend down as it kind of curves, and eventually the stream rolling on the right side of the tunnel will pour off into another fissure, and our players will turn off into Area 5. The lower chamber, which is Area 5, will house one more final teleportation pool, which could have been interesting if one of your players was teleported all the way from the beginning down to here, but also it's going to house one wall that used to be a wall of stone but has recently been broken through. Now Durgtik made his way through here, busted through this wall, and he is headed towards the source of the smoky voice. Both Durgtik and our players will have to ascend a crumbling passage to get up into Area 6 to see what's going to happen next. And that will take us to part 3 of our story. So before we can find out what happens to our heroes in Area 6, we're going to need a little bit of background. So years and years ago, there was a goblin vampire lord who kind of ran all over this area, and he had an army of goblin thralls at his fingertips. In order to end that goblin threat, a celestial being named Anbar sealed Thero away in this chamber in a crystal prison. This tapped Thero of most of his power, and he was unable to have the strength to break himself free. But he's slowly been gaining power back. He's slowly been regaining his sense of self. Now he's been reaching out recently to try and find anyone who is dumb enough to help him escape. And this is where Durgtik comes in. So he promised Durgtik in his dreams a great fortress if he brought the boy down here and broke him free from his prison. And now Durgtik has made his way and is starting to do that. Before the heroes arrive, not only did Durgtik break through the wall of stone that was sealing off this chamber, but he also brought forth the boy in front of Thero, and Thero now is excited to have a minion to boss around again. It has been a long time since he could boss someone around, and actually he wastes a little bit of time here because he could have just had Durgtik knock the boy out, break open the crystal, Thero comes out and inhabits the boy, but instead Thero enjoys this moment. He enjoys watching as Durgtik slaves away. He says, go over and get some stones and organize them in this exact ornate pattern. Go off and get different kinds of moss and make a wreath to drape around the boy's neck. All of this completely unnecessary, but it just feeds Thero's ego that he finally has someone to boss around. Finally, when Thero is ready, he's bossed Durgtik around enough, that's when our heroes are going to arrive in the chamber, or at least the first hero is going to arrive in the chamber. So as the first PC enters Area 6, there's going to be this really dramatic moment that is set up, because all of the other heroes are going to be down further in Area 5, trying to make their way up this passage. The passage should be seen as a little bit of a challenge, and it gives you an opportunity to have your bad guys kind of dialogue with at least one or two of the heroes as the rest are struggling to get up in. You don't want to start this combat off as soon as the first PC makes it into Area 6, because then that could theoretically mean death for your players. It could be more of a less tense combat than it could be if you keep drawing it out. Wait for the other players to stress and not know if they're going to make it up in time. And also you can give Thero the opportunity, or Durgtik the opportunity, to converse with one or two of your players who made it up there first. Eventually, when any of your players makes a hostile move towards Durgtik, or they go after the boy, that is finally when initiative is rolled, and that's going to start off our combat. So, what's going to happen? Well, Durgtik is going to be commanded by Thero to deal with the intruders and get rid of them. So Durgtik is going to attack with all of his might at any of the players who are there. Finally, Durgtik is going to be dropped down to half health, and when that happens, Thero is going to be tired of it. He is going to be ready to be set free, and he might be seeing that the writing is on the wall that he might not get out of here. So he is going to command Durgtik to run to the crystal and break it open with his morning star, and then that is going to set Thero free. Now the big stuff is happening, right? Thero is going to, his mist is going to come out of his crystal prison. He's going to try to inhabit the boy. If the boy is not there, one of your players has gotten the boy away to safety. He will try to inhabit Durgtik's unconscious body, but either way, the players will then have to fight off Thero, eventually winning the day, hopefully, and dispersing Thero's spirit finally off into nothingness. If you download the module, you'll actually find a whole bunch of DM tips that I wrote, hopefully that you'll find useful in making the combat not only a little bit safer for your first level characters, because it could be pretty deadly if things go the wrong way, but also that it'll make it a little bit more cinematic, and that the movie of this boss fight will be really imprinted on your players' minds as you play through this adventure. But you know, as soon as Durgtik and Thero are dealt with, the boy is saved, the players are going to want their treasure. There is a chest actually hidden behind Thero's crystal prison that your players can go and loot and find all of the cool stuff inside. There's going to definitely be a bunch of coinage and gems, but there's also going to be a singular chess piece called Thero's Hall. This is the fortress that Durgtik was promised by Thero, and I am not going to spoil it for you, so if you want to know what happens with this, this, it is not what Durgtik thought he was getting. You're gonna have to download the module off of DriveThruRPG. So there you have it, the exciting conclusion to our Durgtik's Dues Part 2. If this is an adventure you would like to run or just read, you can check it out. I will put a link to it in the description below over at DriveThruRPG. If you like this content, please leave a like, a comment down below telling me a funny story from the adventure. I would love to hear that. Subscribe to the channel if you like this content. Hit the notification bell if you want to know when our videos go live. We release a video at noon Eastern Standard Time every Thursday. If you would like to craft terrain for this adventure, just remember you can craft the Cragmaw Hideout set that we've done on the channel. All of those pieces can be reused in this set, so you can have 2 dungeons basically for the price of 1. And with all of that said, I'll be seeing you.